this just fantasy? You could say so. This is the foundation of many fantasy stories, and you could say the genre as a whole is built upon the legends of King Arthur. And this is the story of King Arthur and his knights, written and illustrated by Howard Pyle, a great American illustrator and writer, I guess you could say. And this I picked up from a friend of mine who sells books. I picked this up from a friend of mine who sells vintage books, and I am a big fan of Howard Pyle, and I just knew that as soon as I saw it that I needed to pick it up for myself. And mostly because Howard Pyle is an excellent illustrator. We're going to take a look and see what we'll see. We're not going to look at everything because there's just so much in here, but I am excited to go over some of his great illustrations in here and to just talk about the imagery of King Arthur as it relates to fantasy art as a whole. So we have a great initial illustration here. I'm sure there'll be another version of it on the inside, and a contest between knights. And I would wager that this is between King Arthur and Mordred, with potentially a Merlin here waiting in the wings. Nice little castle, probably from some sort of photo reference or reference of a kind. And yeah, we're just gonna get right into it. So right here at the start, King Arthur of Britain. This absolutely gorgeous black and white illustration here. Howard Pyle. Love his signature here, by the way, that combined HP. Artists have a cool signature. It's just fun. It's just fun. But here we have, I think, very well rendered. But here we have really well rendered outfit for King Arthur. And the big question one always has when you're doing any kind of illustration work of the Legends of King Arthur is, what time period are you going to stick with? Are you going to go for a kind of melange of medieval and dark age looks and appearances and costumes, or are you going to pick a specific period like the High Middle Ages or something like that to place it in? Because controversially as it may sound, his place in history is debated, if he has a place at all. I mean, of course he has a place in literature and his influence in literature, but we do not have a specific, there's no agreement if there really was such a thing as a King Arthur. So getting it out of the way. So Howard Pyle here has made a choice. I'm going to say it's general Middle Ages, kind of a melange in the middle, because he kind of picks some armor and costume pieces from earlier periods, some from later. And for a legendary figure, I don't think it matters, personally. You may disagree. It may be that it's stronger to stick with a specific time period or to try to place it in history. Or it may be better to treat it as completely fantastical and disregard any kind of historical notes. That is for the artist and the reader to decide for themselves. But I just, love these big props, these little designs in here, this big long cape. But I also love that it's a portrait. And so I also like that it comes at the very beginning of the book, because that way he is setting in your mind during the meat of the story who it is he's telling a story about and what to picture. And so he has this grand king. And I think that's a great move. Also, gotta mention, I love his lettering here and this little figure here in the K. Love that kind of stuff. Also, I will say I feel like he's either doing etchings or he is simulating etchings with ink drawings. I cannot say which, but I just know that these are pretty magnificent plates. And right here we have our frontispiece here of the title with a pair of figures in here, nice castle, and just all around great line work. And that's what you're going to expect here with Howard Pyle, is a just master of the black and white line. And so we're also, I'll touch here and there on these little spot illustrations when there's a little extra space on the page. And here we have this feminine figure wielding a sword. Is it meant to be anybody specific? I don't know. I frankly don't know. I feel like this right here, this woman with what appears to be a magic wand, I would say that that's likely to be perhaps Morgan Le Fay or Nimue maybe, but I can't say. I just know that these wrinkles are just so lovingly rendered, and I love the way he does these waves, how it gets very textured further back you go, and then as he gets closer it gets bigger, really implies that distance, and great natural textures in here. And come on, here we go, magic wand. We got fantasy right here. And that's one great thing about this version, is that it doesn't really shy away from the fantasy elements. So here he's broken the book up, or the story up, into at least two books. The Book of King Arthur and then the Book of Three Worthies. And the Book of King Arthur is generally the tale of King Arthur, and the Book of Three Worthies is essentially stories about his knights, or the people in the court of Camelot. And not so robust an illustration as this header here, but still lovely in its floral decoration. It's very antiquated. It feels very classic. I love these kind of sphinx figures here as bookends even. Now, how's this for a face here? Uther Pendragon, the father of King Arthur. He's got his own wand, and not wand, but like scepter, and a crown. He's got his dragon emblem that his son will inherit. A belt with pair of faces on it, kind of interesting. I just love the weird stern look that Howard Pyle gave Uther Pendragon, who is a character I don't particularly like. He commits unsavory things, especially by modern moral standards. Even the siring of his son is very contentious and unpleasant, and it makes me wonder in the future, when we inevitably get another adaptation of King Arthur, because they make new ones all the time, not just talking about film, but all media. I imagine that there will be a rewriting of Arthur's sireship, because at present it is not pleasant. And then again, another little person in the letter. I gotta love it. And of course, I love this little page here blowing his horn. And like a tapestry. Really wonderful. With like lettering on the tapestry. And look at all this design work. And always a little castle. He loves drawing those little castles. I love it too. The fleur-de-lis here. Yes, wonderful. So here we have an early illustration here. Sir Kay breaketh his sword at tournament. Which, great lettering here awesome little page or trumpeter in here, if you can see. And just look at this amazing clashing of knights. We got a knight back here with his sword drawn. We have this knight, Sir Kay, I imagine, with a broken sword, his horse neighing. Great rendering of that horse. I just love all the flowing garments, and he's so good at throwing in these designs on the cloth and yet also losing track of it in a fold, or rather altering it to fit the folds of the outfit. It's amazing. And look at the rendering of the scallops on this armored foot. It's really wonderful stuff. And that's what you can get from Howard Pyle. Just look at this amazing clash of joust. Boom. It's action-packed. This is the way to read it, It sets the image in your mind. But yet he's not illustrating every single thing, every single moment, just like the key moment of the story, of that part of the story at the very least. So here's a nice atmospheric piece. Sir Kay showeth the mystic sword unto Sir Ector. So what I love about this is after Arthur has pulled the sword from the stone, and Sir Kay is weirded out by where the sword came from. And I just love Sir Ector's outfit here, because we have this interesting oval design on here. We also have this little skull looking thing right here. I don't know what that is, but I love the atmosphere here. I love that there's like a person back here. We have Sir Kay looking inquisitive. Real good acting in this little scene. I love even the folds in the cloth here. And just, great foreshortening. Love the shadow in here. Even the shadow has like a texture to it. And that's the main reason I wanted to show it. It's just I really love the rendering and the posing of this scene. And great little designs like that. More books need to have that kind of, a little more effort into the design. And here we have how Arthur drew forth ye sword. I have to focus in on the pivotal kind of magical moments, and this is one of them right here. Pulling out the sword, because there's a stone, there's an anvil, and then there's the sword, and it's stuck through both. So I guess it's supposed to show the power of the sword, even though it is misconstrued. I feel like the identity of Excalibur is as mistaken in fiction, especially adaptation, as the bite of Dracula is mistaken as the thing that turns a person into a vampire. No, ma'am, no, sir. So this is not Excalibur. This is merely the sword and the stone. This is the thing that affirms his kingship, but the sword known as Excalibur is given to him by the Lady of the Lake. And that is when he needs a powerful sword to essentially affirm that he is a rightful king, and he needs to show people who's boss. Again, this young Arthur. I even love that he's in shadowed here. He's a kid, but he has a little dagger here. I like that. Got some folks watching, a whole audience back here. Look at that. Nice little miniaturization of folks back there in front of a bunch of people, and he's gonna pull it out. We know. All right. So I was wrong about what the front was. The front is not the last battle. This is a fact. The battle with the Sable Knight, meaning the Black Knight. And it's in this battle that Arthur breaks the sword and the stone. So this is Arthur. Merlin is in attendance. And it's a tough battle, and Arthur is wounded, and he breaks the sword. And it's at this point that Merlin heals him, but he also is meant to get a more powerful sword. And this is where he kind of levels up as a king. Love this, the ruinous kind of castle back here. I also have this big empty space on the rock. When you have to do so many illustrations, you got to keep it interesting for yourself. And here we are, folks. Excalibur, the sword, given to him by the Lady of the Lake. Arm just jutting out of this mirror-like lake, which I really enjoy that. I love that, yeah, it's mirrored down here. You can see the path of the boat. And yeah, just this from this single point. And I love that there's no attempt to like make this look more like water. Just the mirroring itself does the job. And I think that's smart because it makes it an eerier, more magical moment. If he's on this glassy lake and this arm just comes out and is holding his new sword. And I love, yeah, the shining kind of miraculous light coming from just the hilts of it. And so, yeah, we have our magical item, an early one, you know, and then also there's the Holy Grail and all sorts of other magical items in Arthur's world that we are privy to and that we are inspired by to this day. And there it is. What a cool boat, too. Isn't that crazy, like, Batwoman or something? I don't know. Gotta point out here Guinevere, who, you know, is interestingly rendered, I'd say. Very olive oil from Popeye. Like this little flower here. But she's not very romantically depicted. There's the hint of romance, but she isn't however, she isn't overly sexualized, let's say. Which is an interesting choice, especially since she's the bride of King Arthur, but maybe that's intentional, just to show that, you know, not all is well between them. All right, as for the Book of Arthur, this is going to be the last one in that, and that's just because I really like the composition of this one. The White Champion meets two knights at the mill. I love this mill here in the background, a little person looking out the window. Also love just the texture of it. And then we have our two knights, and our main knight has his back to us, which is always interesting to me. It's just, I'm going to make the main feature of the illustration the back end of a horse and a guy on it. Just really cool looking tree there. And these fellas here. It's just a really interesting choice, and I think just a really well rendered image of what he set out to draw. So here we're in the Book of Three Worthies, and we're going to start here with the Lady of the Lake, who is at times called Nimue, and it's just it's interesting. There's a little bit more intrigue in this face than there is in the portrait of Guinevere. Also like this swan up here, and yeah, and she still has those long tendrils of hair. But I also like that it says like ye mage or ye magic or something up there on her head, and I find that kind of interesting, kind of funny. But yeah, and she's pawing at her necklace. Lovely. And here he is, folks, with the Wizard of Wizards here, the Enchanter Merlin. And I like that our first image of him is very classical. It's this seated position. I'm thinking of, I think it's like Whistler's Mother. It's like a classic portrait from the 1800s. But yeah, just seated here, and he's got his tome out, and yeah, he's not covered in stars and moons, but he does have like a seeing stone or a crystal ball, just to hint at his magic here. So I love this texture behind him. But yeah, old bearded man with a bad haircut. I love this. Sorcery. And there she is. So I believe that is Vivienne. So here's Vivienne. She is an enchantress. I like that. The Enchantress Vivienne. I love her little snake staff. She's also got a sly look. She even has like a cobra headdress. She's badass. I love this. This looks cool. The castle in the back, of course. And she's the one who traps Merlin, inevitably. And this might be Morgana Le Fay. An awesome headdress. But yeah. Wizards are allowed to have wands. They've had them for years. Here we have Vivienne bewitching Merlin. I like these little people in there. And his outfit for Merlin's pretty consistent, and his look for him is pretty consistent. But I also love his little Sphinx chair. And she's putting the woo on him. I also love how simplified she is right here as compared to him, how rendered he is in shadow. It's a really interesting contrast. She has almost no marks on her. And here we have Queen Morgana Le Fay. I mean, one of the original badass ladies here. So here's a great illustration here. Queen Morgana losing the sheath to Excalibur. Not really losing, but tossing it to the Lady of the Lake. Little conspiracy here between these ladies. And I don't know. I just think it's a cool shot. I love just the disembodied arm. These great ripples. Nice reflection. And her just being like, haha, getting one up on my enemy. Really well rendered hand here. Look at that. All right, I'm jumping ahead here to Sir Gawain sups with ye Lady Ettarde. And it's mostly because I love this creepy, shadowy motherfucker who's got a rosary here, just hiding in the background while Sir Gawain just kind of is chilling with this lady. And it's just, look at this guy. Look at him. Those creepy eyes. He's even almost like he's asking the audience not to make a sound, otherwise he'll be found out. Man, I love it. Just real great use of shadow. And this is one of my favorite illustrations in here. So I just love this creep. And here's one more for us. Sir Gawain finds the beautiful lady, and it's mostly, I just love the atmospheric lighting of this. He's got his nice little designs on his outfit. Here she is, looking for him, waiting for him. So this nice little look between them. I like that. And just like all of these, great costuming. Love that his feet just become these dark silhouettes down here. And yeah, that swath of darkness back there. And I could tell that there's candlesticks like in his hands up here. Because I can see the lighting that way, but I don't need to see them. Like the light itself. Because I can see the where the light falls. A great little person in the end. So anyway, that is just a look, a little taste of the work of Howard Pyle. He'll be somebody I'll come back to because he's illustrated other great works and that apply to this channel. And I encourage you to seek it out. I also think this is just a great telling of the Arthur legend. It's a little antiquated, a little old-fashioned, but it is way more updated than reading the original legends, like by Sir Thomas Malory and the like, as well as older works, just because that's language that is barely what you could call English. So this isn't a bad way to read the legends in a old school format, and plus you get these great illustrations to look at. So on that matter, yeah, I think that looking into and finding your own copy of works illustrated by Howard Pyle, I think, be a great investment, especially for anyone out there who's interested in King Arthur. If you want to see someone who is inspired by the works of Howard Pyle, the writings, and also King Arthur, you could say, you can check out my fantasy comics, which include Sidequesters, which is a fantasy buddy cop, odd couple romp with a pair of characters that become best friends. And I pride myself on my light work and my color, my story. I have a lot of love in this book, and it would mean a lot to me if you gave it a shot or checked it out. And I also have some anthologies with short, kind of dark fantasy tales that live in the same universe as Sidequesters. 2 volumes of those, and you can buy all of these on my website. And if you want something that's a little more traditional superhero-y than 3-panel origins, your book, create a character, tell their origin in 3 panels, and it's kind of got the vibe of the Tick, so they're all kind of a little silly, a little embarrassing, and have a little book of short stories involving them. So that is my plug for me, and I look forward to sharing more looks at the story, the legend of King Arthur with you in the future.